Hello and welcome, and what we're going to be looking in this video is we're going to be looking at the basic visual techniques of a film and the kinds of things that you'll be looking for when you are studying a film, when you are watching one in class and when you're also watching one at home. So the basic thing to do whenever you're watching a film, particularly one that you've just received, is to go home, get a DVD copy of it, rent it if you can still find a video store, or rent it from online, and just have a sit down and watch it first. Watch it and enjoy it. And then the next part is going through and analyzing the film in particular and really looking at the kinds of visual techniques and the parts of the film which are which stand out the most when you are basically not only watching the film, but also when you have to write down some techniques and write down some things about the film. So let's just have a look at them to start. Every film is a visual text, so primarily what you're going to be looking at is visual. So even though you'll have dialogue, and you have sound as well, the main thing you'll be focusing on is the visual aspect. So whether that be camera, whether it be lighting, whether it be stage or costumes or makeup, those sorts of things, they all work together to create an overall visual product. And particularly when you're thinking about a film, you're mainly thinking about things like the visuals of it rather than so much the dialogue and sound, which are still important and you will still be discussing them when you look at film. Now, this makes it very different from when you're writing about a novel or a play as well. So when you're looking at a novel and a play, you're looking purely at text. And even when you study a play version, you're looking at the text of it. With a film, you don't have the luxury of having the text in front of you, which means that any line that you take from the film, particularly a line of dialogue, will have to be taken from memory or through you writing it down word for word, rather than just being able to pick a section from the book and finding it. Alright, so let's just go through how films communicate visually, and they are all arranged, so like an artwork or a web page. So if you look at any kind of artwork, it's been arranged in a particular fashion, the same as a film has been. Now, each film camera shot takes about half an hour to set up. So when directors put together a film, or when a director of photography, along with a director puts together a film, should I say, what happens is that they work very hard on creating the right kind of camera angle to show what they want to show in each shot. So for every scene that you see on a film, particularly for something that's as short as 2 minutes, could take us up to 2 or 3 days to film. And the thing about it is they choose camera shots which best reflect the kinds of feelings, the kinds of emotions, and overall the kinds of communication that they want to put across on the screen. So by doing that sort of thing, they have a sort of an idea in mind of what they want you to feel, how they want you to react to seeing that particular image, and just the way that the whole shot is framed and put together. So having that, you'll have ideas that you can discuss and you can talk about. So with that, when you've got a deliberately chosen camera technique, you've got to basically work out, okay, why have they chosen that particular shot? What is the point of that particular shot? What is the point of the background and the costumes that are being used in that particular scene? And how do I talk about them? What sort of effects on meaning does it create? Does it create this sort of sense of drama? Does it create fear? Does it create laughter, humor? What does it make the audience feel? And that's the most important component of what a filmmaker is trying to do, is they're trying to send across a visual message, which people turn or tune into, whether they're at the cinema or at home. They'll have a look for that visual message which is being communicated by the film, and then they'll also listen to dialogue and sound and all the other components that make up a film as well. So for instance, you may look at, the idea that colours often create atmosphere. So if you see a character in black, then he's usually the evil one. So dressed head to toe in black, carries an evil staff or something like that, it generally means he's evil. If you've got lights, so for instance, a very bright light is shining on someone, it could be something to do with intensity, and it could be intensity of the moment, it could be that it's a very fast-paced situation, it could be that it is a very intense feeling that they have, so they face lights up completely. And again, that is a kind of communication as well, is it's trying to communicate that sort of emotion and that sort of feeling that character's going through at the time. So let's just have a look at some basic categories of film techniques. Obviously, you're going to be starting a lot with camera angles, and you'll be focusing on these a lot. Now, the camera angles themselves and the names of them, yes, they are quite important. But as long as you just recognize the basic elements of what a camera angle does first, then you can work on learning the techniques later. And usually there are lots of glossaries out there. We've got some glossaries as well. And what you get from those glossaries is essentially not only the names, but what the purpose of each shot is. So if it's a moving shot, why is it a moving shot? If it's a static shot, which means one that doesn't move, why doesn't it move? Why are we just focusing on one particular thing or one particular element of that character? And it's fairly easy to define. Lighting is a little bit harder because one of the things about lighting is it may appear to be quite natural and it may just appear to be normal sunlight when really there's lighting doing that. The thing you'll be focusing more on is lighting which has a particular purpose or seems a little bit unnatural or odd for the particular scene that you're looking at. Special effects, so computer graphics or props, things like that. Usually won't focus on these too much, but if there's something that's particularly important, then you may come across and talk about it. Costume and makeup, particularly, this is something that gets quite heavily done for very stylized films, where they'll make up the character or they'll make them look a particular way, and makeup, and costume will do both of those things. Set design, again, this may just refer to the scene which is being put together and the way that that scene is being organized. So, what do all these things together mean? Okay, well, visuals construct meaning. So even if you're looking at it just purely in the terms of any artwork or any image that you see, you'll get some sort of very basic meaning from it. Now, not every bit of meaning you'd be looking for is deep or really intense meaning. It could be very, very simple ones. So, yes, you'll often be asked to interpret what each of those things mean. So if you look at an image of a flower or whatever it may be, it's going to have some sort of meaning behind it, even if that meaning is something as simple as it's a flower, it smells nice, you can pick it, you can give it to your girlfriend or your boyfriend for that matter, you can do all these different things with it. That could be as simple as what the meaning is. It could be something more symbolic and deeper as well. That really depends on the context of the film and what you're actually being asked to discuss. So the thing you need to do is think about the things in real life that create meaning for you. So just some simple things you can pick up. So like example, dark clouds means that there's storms coming. So if you see a dark cloud in the sky, you're ducking for cover usually because you think there's a big storm coming. If you see toys in a person's living room, it must mean that they have kids, because obviously it wouldn't be something that the adults will play with unless they're particularly childish adults. But you can generally assume that having toys in the living room means that there are children living there. And those are two examples of very basic meaning that we just get from looking at things. So if you use that exact same principle, it becomes much easier to find things that are meaningful in films. And as I said, they're not always deep and meaningful. You can find very simple, meaningful terms, and you can discuss them perfectly well in the context of a film. So what are you going to be looking for? Well, you'll be looking for in climactic or important scenes in the film anyway to start with. Not only because of the fact that they are important scenes, but also because they'll be looking quite closely. When you look at them quite closely, you'll find a lot of techniques. They'll be swimming in them, literally. They're the ones that the filmmakers will often spend a lot more time working on. But not only that, because they're scenes you're going to be discussing anyway, by using techniques to back up what you're saying about that particular scene, you're adding depth to that discussion. So if you're picking the final moment of the film or the really mysterious ending, then techniques will help you to explain why that ending is so mysterious. So what you've got to do from there, once you've found those climactic scenes, and you only really need to watch about 10 or 15 minutes of the film over and over again, rather than watching the whole thing, because if you're watching the whole thing, what you'll find is you'll not only be breaking your hand scribbling down notes, but you'll also sort of lose some of the key ideas that are in there. If you focus on a couple of scenes, you can really just continue reinforcing those. Now, from there, you look for eye-catching features, such as maybe a cutaway to something, to an object, so something that they're focusing on an object in particular, a close-up of a person, or something, like I said before, with lighting, where it might be slightly peculiar. So it might just create a sort of an effect, maybe a deeper effect, maybe not. All those things. So look for the famous scenes in films, look for things that are identified, even if you're just looking on the web, and that will give you a bit of an idea. Now, how do you connect those visuals then to purpose and meaning? Well, as I was saying before, it may be just something very, very simple. There are no right or wrong answers to this. So if you think that a balloon equals childhood and your teacher says, no, it doesn't, it means innocence, I mean, both of those interpretations could be correct, provided you both have evidence to support them. If you don't provide the right evidence or don't provide a context for it, then you probably couldn't justify using that as your evidence. However, if you do find something like that, then obviously you can use that point just as easily as your teacher could, or anyone else could for that matter. Now, you're looking for those that can be supported not only by evidence, but also by context. So don't pick a random scene from the film and says that means that when it has nothing to do with the rest of the film. Pick something in context of the film, seeing as you would have seen the film, you would know what's happening. But also look for things which do provide a little bit of evidence for what you're trying to say, especially when you're trying to prove an idea or a key point. And finally, use your own ideas. So for instance, if we'll look at that picture there to my right, we've got Jack, we'll call him. And Jack, I can say, is lonely. Now, how do I prove that? Because he's lit by a spotlight and then is in a long camera shot. Now, how does that represent loneliness, you might ask? Well, he's lonely because obviously there's no one else around. We're focusing just on him. We're focusing just on him and maybe the things that are going on in his own mind. We may even look at something like his facial expression, for instance. And those are all factors which come into it. However, just having looked at that image simply and simplistically, we can just say from those two features that Jack is lonely and he's also lit by a single spotlight. And because he's in a longer camera shot. Those are three techniques basically which suggest to one observer, that being me, that he is a lonely person. Of course, you can choose that to say that he's powerful or something else along those lines. It doesn't necessarily have to fit one description, as long as, of course, you provide evidence for it. And that's basically all there is to visual techniques. So really it's just about finding something, being able to talk about it in your own words, and really just be able to start connecting things, joining the dots together, and you'll actually find that it's much, much easier to not only do it on your own, but also you'll find ideas which will give you a lot more to talk about. So otherwise, that's about it for visual techniques. So until next time I see you, I'll see you later.